What is good, beautiful people? It's your boy Ramon. This is the HTC One M8. And yeah, we're taking a look at this solid device here. The follow-up, obviously, to last year's model, the M7. HTC is making great on their promise to be a little more consistent in the experience in the phones that they deliver. I couldn't be more happy with this phone. I mean, I was really happy with last year's model. That the M8 now comes to the market with a very similar design, yes, but more refined, I suppose you could say. It's slightly bigger than last year's model. That's mainly because it has a slightly bigger screen. The brushed aluminum feels slightly better in the hand, but more slippery. And it's just an all-around great improvement, and I feel like HTC is doing a good job at refining their product for the better. And at this point, when this phone is about 3 to 4 months in its cycle, I think HTC One becomes a household name. You know, it's a product now. It's not an HTC phone. It's not that new HTC phone. It's just HTC One. Sort of like an iPhone. When you hear an iPhone, you know it's iPhone. You don't necessarily care what year or what model. It's just an iPhone. Well, here's an HTC One. So diving into the design, like I said, I really like the design. I like the last year's design a lot too. Part of me is still partial to last year's design. I can't figure that out. But here's the silver one, there's a black one, and there's a gold one that really doesn't look that good in person. But hey, who am I to judge? If you want a gold phone, get a gold phone. On the right side of the device, you'll see a slot for what I thought at first was a SIM slot, but it's actually the micro SD slot. This is a big deal. There were a few things last year that really stopped a lot of folks from getting the M7. One of them was expandable storage. So kudos to HTC for getting that into design. And I know it can be difficult with some of these unibody designs to really fit this in there, but they did it. Good job on that. Then you got your volume up, your volume down. On the left side of the device is your SIM tray. At the top, you've got this black strip, this black plastic strip. Your power button is there. And the IR blaster is also located behind that black strip. At the bottom, you got your micro SD charging port and your headphones. At the back, you've got the two cameras, ultra pixel cameras, of course. The top one measures depth of field. The bottom does what it does, and you got your dual LED flash, the HTC logo, an AT&T logo I'd rather not have, and to the front, we've got a 5 megapixel front facing camera. Yes, that is a whole megapixel more than the camera on the back. And you have the boom speakers, one to the top, one to the bottom. When you're holding up to the side, that's one to the left, one to the right. Get some nice stereo sound out of that. In terms of spec, HTC pretty much just gave it the incremental boost that it needed. And I'm going to go ahead and say it wasn't really a needed boost, but if you're going to release this thing on a yearly schedule, you got to just give it the best that's out there. So on board is the Snapdragon 801 quad-core processor, which is what you see in mostly all the other phones these days, including the Galaxy S5. It's got 2 gigs of RAM, it's got 32 gigabytes of storage, and it's got a nicely improved 2600 milliamp battery. The battery isn't that much bigger on paper, but in day-to-day use, I did find that it really helped, and I could actually get through a whole day with this thing. Also, two of the most obvious things when you talking specs and in terms of device as well is you notice the lack of physical buttons at the bottom. This was also a turn off for a few people because you had the physical buttons on the M7 were not, I wouldn't say useless, but they were weird. So HTC just went ahead and made that all on screen and get it over with. And if you're going to do that, of course, you got to have a bigger screen. And this guy comes with a 5-inch display, full 1080p. I think it's almost just about the same display as last year. but it's a little taller, so the pixel density takes a hit if you're into that type of thing. Nothing substantial, everything still look beautiful on the display, but a hit nonetheless. As I said before, I'm kind of partial to the M7 still, but this feels like a definitely some sort of iteration to a great design, and they made it even better, so I can always appreciate that. One thing I do want to point out is this feels a little more slippery than the M7, and you want to be careful with that because the M7 will definitely fall out of your hand, and this guy looks no different. Software and experience wise, it's more of the same. This comes with Sense 6, and HTC continues to make changes where needed, where necessary to their Android skin. And everything makes sense. I really don't have any quarrels here. No showstoppers, really. Blink feed gets a little better. You can integrate it with more services. There's Fitbit in there now. Why not? There's, everything's a little more smooth. What I will say is there's no lag, and that just helps with the experience. No Android lag is something that seems to be difficult to pull off these days, so I'm happy to report the experience here is just solid. That's definitely a good thing. Sense continues to make sense. I don't have any beef with the overlays at every corner of the OS. It makes it looks different, yes, but it goes with the theme of the phone, which I thought is worthy of some mention. Somebody actually took their time to think about how everything looks at one package. You've got your TV application in there that goes hand in hand with the IR blaster. I mean, they packed a lot in there. I don't really care to go into details. There's just some things that you guys should know only when you get the phone. That's a nice little surprise, and I think there's a ton of that in here. One of the biggest talking points of the HTC One for me, even with the original, was the camera. They came out with their ultra pixel madness. I'll never forget the event, and everything looked nice how they sold it, and the spiel. And then the rumors came out like, wait a minute, you guys know that's only a 4 megapixel camera. What? And I dismissed it right away. But I went out and got it, and I took some shots, and hey, this was a capable camera. The HTC One M8 is more of the same. It's a very capable camera. They've gone in and done some tweaks to UI, and they also added some options to give you a bit of manual control. But overall, it still remains a very capable shooter. And yes, it's got this second camera, which a lot of people are, I don't know, obsessed with it for good and bad reasons. So all the second camera does is measures depth of field, and this gives you an option to later go in and select what is in focus, and it gives you a nice professional shot with some bokeh, if you will. Now, my problem with this is the people who want to shoot these type of things, I don't think they'll be beefing about the camera. But then there's the people who don't understand how these type of things work, and it's like, wait, are they going to use this feature? I'm really not sure how this is going to pan out, but as someone who understands a bit of photography, it's kind of dope to see it in there. But I wish they would increase the resolution a little bit. There's no room for error on this thing. You've got a 1020 where I can shoot at bliss. I don't frame things anymore because I can reframe them later. That's made me really lazy and sloppy, if you will. On the M8, I have to get my shot correct from the jump because there's no cropping, there's no zooming. The pictures look like crap the minute you do that. So it's one of those things where you really got to get used to how to use this camera. When you post pictures to Instagram and Facebook and whatnot, the pictures look just as good as anything else, especially after you edit them. So it's a very capable shooter. It's a very fast shooter. I was impressed at how fast this thing can capture images. It's really good in low light, even though in extreme low light conditions the pictures look terrible. Yes, the video recording is really dope. We did a few episodes of random moments with it. It's capable, and I feel like this was one of the other reasons that really stopped people from jumping in when you talk about the HTC One. And they didn't exactly help themselves here by keeping the same camera, but I want everybody to know that it really is a capable camera. And they got some extra software features in there that gives you this 3D effect when you play. You know, there's a lot in there to play around with. There's some dope stuff in there. When it's all said and done, I really enjoyed the HTC One M8. The design is just something to desire. I mean, you almost never want to put this thing down, and you certainly don't want to put it in a case. As dope as that dot view case is, which I'm not reviewing, by the way, because I don't believe in putting my devices in phones, I just can't bring myself to put this thing in a case. It's just such a well built piece of machinery, art, whatever you want to call it. It's gorgeous. And HTC went the extra mile to make sure that the software and the experience pretty much matches and complements the hardware. There's a lot to be said for that. I feel like with this second iteration, they're solidifying their commitment to a vision, a focus of delivering a great experience and not be all over the place. They're well on their way. And last year, if you know, there were some things to stop you from jumping in, they're taking care of them one by one. It may not get everyone this time around, but a lot more people are paying attention than they were last year. You know, it would have been the expandable storage. They fixed that. There's still a question of the camera. I hope they're gonna bump that up a little on the next version. But hey, I'm excited about this device and how the world would adopt it. I definitely recommend this. I can't say I've had too many experiences this smooth, and it's just wow. You know, there's so much to discover with this phone. There's so much to really appreciate on how they took their time to engineer it, that I don't even want to go into extreme detail, because this is something you need to hold and experience for yourself and say, wow, that is really cool. But yeah, I highly recommend this phone, and I wish there was a Windows version. But anyway, my name is Ramon. Thanks for checking out the review. Leave a comment below. If you picked it up, I want to hear what's your favorite part of it. If you didn't pick it up, I'm also interested to know why. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe. We got tons of reviews coming. I'm out of here. Peace.